When I was younger, I always thought the college experience was getting fucked up, having lots of promiscuous sex, and like just trying to pass your class when you haven't done shit for homework, and crafting your own identity and personality, and just fucking around, and, you know, like getting fucking weirdly hazed, you know, like, for instance, like, you know, you're trying to be friends with your buddies, but in order to, like, sleep in the same house as them, you have to, like, crab walk with a pickle up your ass and drag it across a football field and some borderline gay shit. And then you realize, like, okay, maybe most of the doctors of the world had to go through some extreme hazing to get their degrees. And you're just like, all right, he's, like, putting a popsicle stick in my mouth to, like, check out my throat, but this guy probably got slapped in the face with a fucking raw fish while he had to have whipped cream on his balls, and it was okay, or some weird shit. And then he had to, like, puke on this chick, and then she had to do the walk of shame. And then you also realize, like, wait a minute, like, all these fucking successful people with master's degrees are just, they're just weird, kinky, like, shit you probably wouldn't see on porn motherfuckers. But then my college experience was nothing like that. So my ass has remained pickleless, which I'm proud to say. Didn't have to crab walk through an empty field at night, or put whipped cream on my balls, or, you know, make out with a dog's stomach, or any of these other stupid hazing rituals. I got a degree, but part of me thinks that I missed out. This is Coffee and Catastrophe with Brent and Gabi.
My face was just in shock that whole time. I'm like, I didn't think that college was going to be like that at all. I was kind of like, you know, you see like those movies, like, what was the one with Ryan Reynolds? The really, like, where he's in college for forever.
Van Wilder.
I almost called it Zoolander. That's an entirely different movie. Still funny, though. But, like, Van Wilder, where it's, like, a party, and, like, everyone's having fun. Or, like, there was that movie, Accepted, where they, like, made their own fake college because they couldn't get into actual college.
Yeah.
Like, you know, where it's just kind of like a party and, like, fun, right? I kind of thought that's how college was going to be. But my college experience, like, I didn't party at all. I really didn't other than like learning, I didn't really enjoy my college experience. Like, I was really disappointed when I was like a freshman in college, and I really didn't meet that many people that I liked. I was just taking my classes, being a good student, because like that's who I was. But I didn't like the people around me. It was a lot of like, I don't know, just like people who were like pseudo intellectual, or then like the party scene I just wasn't a part of. I didn't even have I had like one beer, maybe two, as like a freshman in college, and I didn't like party at all or drink because like I didn't want to be associated with that. Like, my college experience was kind of just marred by like me working really, really hard to like graduate as fast as possible, and then doing that.
So, like, you didn't, like, your sisters didn't, like, pour buckets of puke over you, and, like, you had to be initiated into your apartment?
Yeah, so I, like, never wanted to join a sorority, because I kind of, like, viewed it as, like, paying for friends, and I, like, wasn't about that. My freshman year roommate was in a sorority, though. I think she was in Alpha Chi Omega, and, like, she told me about all their, like, rituals, and it wasn't anything, like, hazing. They did, like, a dumb dance and, like, had to wear togas, like... And I also, like, if you wanted a fake ID, like, all of the, like, sororities, like, you could get, like, a fake ID. But I wasn't, like, really into that. I didn't want to be associated with that. I wanted to, like, find my own, like, niche. And instead, I was just kind of really lonely in college.
So, it sounds like it's not, like, the guy stuff.
Yeah, no, it's not like the whole like fraternity hazing shit. I was also afraid to go because there was like there was this one fraternity that like people were convinced like they would take advantage of girls at parties, and so I was kind of like, I don't, and like Loyola was in Chicago, like it's in the city, so it's illegal to have frat and sorority houses in the city of Chicago via some like 1930s law. So like if you were in a party, it was like at somebody's like apartment, and there'd be like the biggest party I went to was like, I think it was opening night of one of like one of the theater shows, and like we went, and there was like theater kids are fucking weird, right? You know this. And they were going at it. They had a fucking drum circle at one point, and it was like, what the fuck is up with all of you people? Yeah, it was kind of dumb.
Yeah, but sometimes, like, if you stay later at some of those theater kid parties, it turns into the fucking ending of Suspiria.
I've never seen Suspiria. Don't hate me.
No, never mind. I mean, like,
Is it group sex?
I wish.
It's that. What is the ending of Suspiria?
I'm not gonna say it. Just see the new one, and you'll see some shit you'll never forget.
Is the new one better than the old one?
No, definitely not. The old one is like a classic, amazing horror movie. The new one,
is it like Mother, in terms of like horror, or like why it's hard to watch?
Like the general plot is it's the ballet school that's overseas, I think in Germany or some shit, I can't remember. But then and it takes place in like the 60s or 70s, and it's run secretly by a coven of witches.
Oh,
and what they're doing is like they're recruiting new ballet students to like kind of add to their coven. So, but then like you go through this like trippy, fucking blood everywhere bullshit. Like I don't know. But,
is it like a sacrifice at the end?
I'm not going to spoil the ending. I'm just saying it's extremely graphic, and it's you got to do a lot of shit to be a witch, but not as much as you got to do to be a guy in a sorority. So, like, picture the ending as Suspiria, but then, like, you also, there's guys, like, say, like, it just seems like to be, like, a bunch of, like, alpha male dudes trying to get away with doing some of, like, the gayest shit that they mock other people for doing. But that's like initiation. Like,
yeah.
I never understood, like, if you're going to live under the same room, why do you have to be in a bukkake party?
Yeah.
And then, like, you got to drink beer and you have to go out and rape 20 chicks just so you can be a brother. Like, I don't know.
Well, yeah. And that's like, I'd hope that it's better nowadays, but I honestly have no idea. But that was totally like the stereotype is like dudes like doing stupid shit to get hazed. Like,
oh, dude. Like,
yes. Ugh, ew.
I wasn't in the college, but I walked past the Madison College, like in Madison, Wisconsin, and it was like the school hasn't even started yet. And what happened was they were going through like the new freshman chicks, the freshman girls were going through like a tour of the sorority house, and across the way, like in an adjacent house, there were just a bunch of like shirtless dude bros like on the roof with kegs of beer going, yeah, fresh me, and then like
that's disgusting.
And then they just started like passionately kissing each other, and then just just
the girls or the guys?
No, the guys are just making out with each other, blowing each other on the roof, like, hey, fresh meat,
oh Jesus!
Like, what the fuck? Just say you're gay. Just say it. Like, why are you?
That is the one thing where I was like, you know, when you hear about those frats, they're like sodomizing each other, and it's like, or like hell, there's like football teams that like have been in trouble for like that shit, and like it's like all this rapey disgustingness, and it's like, what are you doing? Like,
it's like,
and then the people are like, but it's tradition, and it's like, but it's rape, but it's gross, but it's bad. Like,
but it's like, bro, like, I know you can't play Quidditch in real life because the broom don't fly, but that doesn't mean you have to stick it up your ass, and then you gotta like fucking carry a trout underneath your chin and neck across the football field, like in the cold, and then you gotta have people like whip your nipples, and then you gotta have a sexual relationship with like 15 other guys, and then you gotta and now you're a lawyer?
Yeah, I don't, yeah, no, it's weird. I don't fucking get it. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird, dude. And like, oh yeah, now you have friends after that? Like, I don't fucking get it, dude. Like, I just think that like, as much as I like love learning, I just like can't get behind like I'm gonna sound like such a bitch. I think that I have like this like internalized system of like, it maybe like subconsciously see what I did there, because this was our last episode. But subconsciously maybe it's like I think that I'm better than those people, and that's why I'm like, I am not taking part in this bullshit, like which makes me sound like a bitch, but like see, that's my theory of why all these like rape cases, like the guys get off easy, is because like the judge and the lawyers are like, wait a minute, like I fucked a chicken when I was his age. He's not that bad. All right, get out of here, man. Like, yeah, so, I don't know, dude. Like, it's weird. Did you? Because you went to Columbia, so they had like it's like the largest like performing arts college. Is that correct?
I don't know the statistics, and I don't know the like in terms of its place, but I know it's like, for instance, they have film, they have television, they have radio, they have dance, they have theater, they have like anything that's like art related, such as drawing, like they have a department for it. So
yeah. And so were there sororities and fraternities at Columbia?
Thank God, no.
Okay.
So,
interesting. Yeah, no, Loyola had them for sure. And like, I do remember Loyola, again, because it was in an urban environment, was like really non-traditional. When I went to Lake Forest College for my master's in teaching, that was where I really experienced like kind of the feel, like that stereotypical like sprawling party craziness, where my boyfriend at the time, like he stayed in the dorms, I think 2 or 3 years. And when he was there, like when it was homecoming weekend, people would be up at 6 a.m. Like 40s and fraternities would be banging on their like their littles like room, you know, like have you heard of that? Like they're the big and the little, right? So they have like a person that like is their like mentor, and so they'd be like banging on the girl's door and like yelling at her to get up and like to go party, and be like 6 a.m. and I would be like, or they would party till like 4 a.m. and you just hear, you'd be trying to go sleep, and next door it's like oomph, 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 oomph. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, and I like, a part of me is like, maybe I'm just too old for it, but like, no, like I'm not into that shit. So I'm just like, oh, I fucking hate all of you people.
Yeah, I just never got it. I mean, I've had a very different, like I almost didn't end up going to college, because I remember I went to go to a community college right out of high school, and I'm glad I did. But I remember my work ethic was absolute dog shit. I was 18 years old, and I took on a full load of 5 classes. And I was like, you know, if I could do this in high school, I could do this in college. And then I found out the workload, because my first semester there, my schedule was English, speech, theater, math, and logic. And I was just like, holy shit, how am I going to keep up doing this? And I remember I went every single day, like Monday through Friday. And I did very well in speech. That was the one I got the highest grade in. With speech, I loved doing it. Because, like, even then, like, I was still, like, I had this performance aspect of me, and I didn't have, like, kind of this guilt or shame about me that I do now, or, like, the nervousness from, like, the shit I did in the past, like, from, like, the regret episode. But then English, you know, I've always been a good writer, and theater was fun. I was the quiet kid, but I remember I just stopped giving a shit, because I remember Tuesdays and Thursdays I went to math and logic. So what I did was I just stopped doing the work, and I just didn't show up to class. And I remember I would pretend to go to class for however many hours. So I would sit in my car and listen to the radio for hours. I would listen to the Man Cow morning show.
Oh, I fucking hate Man Cow. Burn in hell.
So I listened to Man Cow Tuesdays and Thursdays for hours, and just in the backseat of my car. I would like go to it was weird, because I would park at the CLC fucking parking lot, and then I would still sit in the back seat. I could have just drove around the block and parked my car down the street, but I don't know why the fuck I'm not a smart guy. Here's the thing, I do a lot of stupid shit. So, but I would listen to there, and then eventually, like, it reached past the midway point. Like, I was definitely getting 2 Fs, and I was just gonna drop out, and just like, you know, I'm gonna drop out of these classes. And then they said, well, you're too late, so you have to take the Fs instead of the W's, or for withdrawing.
Oh yeah,
so,
for sure.
I had those 2 Fs on my record for years. And then I remember I told my parents, I'm like, yeah, I just want to quit. I just want to drop out of school, and like, I need a break, and I just want to work at Jimmy John's. And I never worked at Jimmy John's prior to that. I just wanted to work there for some reason. I don't know why.
It was your first job, right?
That was my first job. So then they were just like, Brent, look, they actually gave me some good advice. They said, like you're going to work the rest of your life. Just do the school shit now. Get it over with.
That's good advice.
If you need like help, you know, like we'll try to help you out, like, but just, you know, just don't, because you'll never go back to work if you leave. And then I was just like, yeah, well, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. But thankfully, I did not drop out of school. I was a very slow learner. Well, not like a slow learner, but like I actually went part-time for 4 years at the community college from 2005 to 2009. I didn't get my associates until 2009. So I loved it, because like they're like some of the best memories I had were just going to night classes. Like they'd be like 7 to 9 or 6 to 9 or whatever, and then 1 day a week, and you know, it would be like intro to film, where I learned so much about movies and screenwriting. And then there was a creative writing class where I like took a lot of my writings too. So I really enjoyed my time there. I only made one new friend. out of there. And I've lost touch with them since, and I kind of wish I would have been more adamant about just saying like, hey man, what's up? But I didn't take it that way. But then transferred to Columbia. So now I was there from fall of 2009 to the fall of 2012. I will say, with Columbia, I've met some of the best people I've ever met. Some of my best friends to this day I met at Columbia, and I got really lucky because we were part of a very tight-knit group, and we really bonded like a family.
Aww.
You know, and we would just like see each other like 4 times a week because we had to go through foundations together. Foundations were just like the basics of film class. And I just love, you know, we would always bust each other's balls. And I miss that so much. We would just go in there and just relentlessly fucking give it to each other. And just like, oh God, some of the most ruthless bashings, like just amongst the people in the group. But it was so fun. Like it was like a verbal hazing. So instead of actually shoving the broomstick up your ass, they would just, you know, make a comment about like my haircut or something, or some weird stuff I did or said. And it was just, this was so much fun. But no, I could see like a lot of artsy kids, but you know, everyone's trying to cut out their identity. Yeah. You know, and because a lot of these kids like came from like very strict, like rural fucking country farm.
Really?
Like you'd be surprised. Like people from all over the world. Like there's this one kid that came from like Britain, and like there was like another kid like from Nigeria. There was like a couple people from China. There was, you know, you had like the rich kids whose fathers paid through for all their film equipment and shit. But there's a lot of like good-hearted people. I really got to meet those people.
It's funny because I'm sitting here and I'm like, that wasn't my experience at all. Like, actually, I was in Houston presenting at the National English Teachers Convention, and this other teacher who I got to know, she went to Loyola too, and she's like, did you like Loyola? I'm like, no. And she's like, I didn't like the girls at Loyola. And she was saying that she just thought they were all very catty and disrespectful and like just mean girls. And like, I don't really think all the girls were like mean and catty, but like, it was really weird to me because, well, like, first off, you know, Loyola's Catholic, but I didn't think that actually, like, people would go and be Catholic there. Like, I just thought, like, oh, everyone's like me, and religion is something you do to make your parents happy, but it's a farce, right? But no, there was, like, some really, really strict Catholics there, which I'm fine with, but, like, don't preach at me, right? And there was a lot of kids from, like, fucking private parochial schools who their parents had paid, you know, like $10,000 a year since they were God knows how young to be in parochial school. And I came from fucking public school. And that was a weird gap. Like, you got all these people who went to private all-girls schools, private all-boys schools, and now that they're here, they're going fucking nuts, right? And the thing that I didn't like about... So I ended up majoring in English and psychology. Psychology was fine. Like, everyone's pretty normal. But, like, the fucking English majors would do this, like, pseudo-intellectual bullshit of, like, who can one-up each other with a better, more unique analysis in class. And that was like, I'm not going to play this fucking game. Because they're always just trying to one-up each other. Which sucks because, like, I never discussed in class. Like, I never shared my viewpoint ever. I also, so, like, my first year, what happened was I took on the 5 classes. And I got a job at the Department of Fine and Performing Arts, and I was their blog administrator. And I also worked I was like front of house staff for art openings, theater openings, music concerts, all that stuff. Dance consortiums, all that. So I not only was like a full-time student, but I had a part-time job. So like, you know, 2 to 3 times a week I'd be working. So I was just like really kind of kept to myself. I didn't have a lot of time to socialize necessarily. I just kind of wanted to like do my best in school and like work really hard. So I did like my first year, freshman year, there was like 2 people one person I was kind of like forced into friendship with. And then the other person like lived on my floor and she was really cool, but she like left after like the first semester. So I felt really alone and like isolated. And I like the people I work with, but it's like, you kind of have to like them because you work with them. It was kind of weird. Then I remember coming home from my spring semester at Loyola, and I was like, fuck this. Like, I don't like this school. I don't like it. I like learning, but I don't like college. I'm going to graduate as fast as I can. So I sat down with my laptop and I planned out, I was like, at the time, just going to be a psychology major. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I can add on this like English minor, because I had just taken, I was like, oh, I'll add this on because I think I like it and I think I'm good at English. And then after my fall semester, sophomore year, I was like, I really like English. I'm going to double major. So I would like every term, like sit down and plan out like with this spreadsheet, like how many credits I needed in what areas for my whole degree. And I realized that I needed to take summer school and winter term to graduate in 3 years. And every semester I took 6 classes at a time. And I took 2 classes in the summer, every summer. And then I also took 1 after freshman year. And then I also took 1 J-term class, which was like 3 weeks in like January before we got back to school. And I just like really worked myself like a dog to like get out of school, because I just like didn't connect with like really anybody. And I was really alone. And, I had my boyfriend at the time who would come and visit me, but he was going to another school. And, I kind of made friends with the really only person I talked to this day from college is my like roommate Kate. And we like spur of the moment got placed where there was like this quad where like they had like an empty room, and then there was my room, and then they were connected by a bathroom that we shared. Right. So like they're the only person I talked to from college, and we were roommates. We didn't really talk too much. We just kind of like were there, and like they had like a bunch of like friends that I like really wanted to be friends with. Like they were really cool people, but I just never got like up the guts to be like, yo, you want to like hang out? But again, like I didn't party, I didn't smoke, like, so I kind of felt isolated. And I just like put my nose in a book and worked really hard, and like didn't try to like put myself out there. And yeah, college was kind of miserable for me. I think it's like partially, it's like my own fault. Like I didn't put myself out there. I didn't try to enjoy my college experience. I was just like, fuck this, I'm getting out as fast as possible. You know what I mean?
I feel you. I mean, I came in there with the same mentality. Like I remember during like the orientation week.
Oh, I fucking hated orientation.
Like I went there, and then like there was a couple of kids at the table, and they were passing out like whatever the souvenirs or like programs and information about the college. And I went there, and he asked me, like he was genuine, and he said, "Hey, are you looking forward to this?" And I just said, "Well, yeah, I hope it's worth all the money." And then like he looked at me and he said, "It is what you make it." And then I will say, like, what really changed my opinion and everything was just the people that I met. Yeah. And it would, like, had I joined any other semester, I would have had a completely different college experience. It was just kind of fate that we all met. And people had their distinct personalities, and like we really bonded. And the cool thing was, because I went to a community college and got all my gen eds out of the way, all of the classes I took were geared towards my major.
Yeah, that's again, like what I loved. Like I didn't really care for when you got to get your gen eds out of the way. Like even at Loyola, they had like the core, which were like you had to take, or, opt out of via like AP credits, like 2 English classes, 2 theology classes, 2 philosophy classes, 2 math classes, 2 science classes. I think that was, there was like, and like 1 fine arts class, I think. And so, or 2 fine arts classes. And so I got all of those out. I think I knocked out within my first year and a half. And then I was able to really get into my major, which I loved. I did 2 labs in psychology, one on social psychology and the other one on developmental psychology, which was the developmental one was my capstone for my major. So we did like a content analysis of the cartoon show Adventure Time. And we coded for every time a character acted gender atypically and stereotypically, I should say, and if they were punished or not for their choice and behavior. And it was interesting because we determined that like the girls were always rewarded for gender astereotypical behavior, like being strong, being bossy, making decisions, like that. But the boy characters were always like shamed or punished for like having feelings, being upset, being temperamental, like stuff like that. So that was really fucking cool. I really loved that. And I loved the English classes I took. Like at the very end, Kate was actually in this class of mine, but we had this capstone course where it was all focused on one topic. It was like a seminar. And so we had a seminar on the Bronte sisters. So my final like English major project was I did like a 15-page paper on like Wuthering Heights and how basically have you ever read Wuthering Heights?
Heard of it, haven't read it.
Okay, so in a nutshell, first off, please go watch the music video for Kate Bush's Wuthering Heights because it's amazing. But that's another story. I did pull a few all-nighters in college, and one of them was when I was finishing that paper, and I just put that song on repeat at 3 a.m. to like keep me awake because it's just her voice is so shrill. It's like amazing. But so basically it's a story about how it's like a frame story, which is very Victorian, which the narrator shows up to stay at this estate where this guy named Heathcliff is, and he has like an adoptive son named Harrington, who's like Harrington or Harriton? I think it's Harriton. And how the narrator's there and all of a sudden a ghost appears at the window and it's a woman saying like, Heathcliff, I'm here. It's me, Kathy. And like, it jumps into this narrative of how Kathy like lived, was this like woman, and her father came home with like, she had like a brother, and he came home after being away with this like orphan boy named Heathcliff, and he has like dark hair, and like they become like best friends. But like, what you're supposed to read into it is they become like kind of like lovers. Like they're not really related, but he's like her adopted brother, but they like love each other. Well, she ends up being with this rich guy and rejecting Heathcliff, but she fucking dies. And then you're supposed to read into it that he like fucks her dead body, but he gets like really cruel and mean because he couldn't have Kathy basically. And then, but Kathy gave birth to her daughter, Catherine. And at one point, Heathcliff has a kid that he adopted. They named Harriton. So Heathcliff's miserable and horrible and like this cruel human being. But at the end of the book, Catherine, Kathy's daughter, ends up with Harriton, who is Heathcliff's adoptive son, and they end up having like a healthy relationship, right? So my like thesis was that because I noticed that like it's this weird like parallel story where like it doesn't work with Kathy and Heathcliff, but it works with Catherine and Harriton. And I interpreted it as like, because the Bronte sisters were really well read and they had a great classic education from their father, who was a priest, and they read like all the like classic Greek mythology and stuff. And actually in the book, they had these dogs, and one of the dogs' names is Phoenix. And so I was like, okay, so Emily Bronte knew what the Phoenix was in the story of the Phoenix. I think that Catherine and Harriton, the couple that makes it, is like the fledgling Phoenix of Kathy and Heathcliff's love, where like Kathy and Heathcliff were consumed by the flames of their love and destroyed by it. But from that, the fledgling that is born is Catherine and Harriton's love, and they're able to make it because they kind of like are reincarnations of their parents or adoptive parents' sins.
Yeah, damn.
I'm still really proud of that paper. I got an A on it. I'm really proud of it.
Sounds really fucking cool.
I actually, I need to like bring my old laptop back to life, and I swear to God, I'm going to save it. I have all of my old papers on there.
Dude, fuck yeah, man. Like,
did you have like a final project capstone paper thingy, or like a film that you did?
See, like, I was the last of my kind with my program, because at least as of this episode, there is no documentary major at Columbia anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So I was the last one to graduate.
There's still one at DePaul, I think, though.
Yeah, so that's cool, because I just love documentary, and I didn't really have a final project. I just think the last movie I made was a small documentary called Rockin' Randy, and it was about this old wrestler named Rockin' Randy, and my dad knew him, and he actually lived a few towns away from me.
Oh, that's cool.
So I actually interviewed him. I went to his wrestling school, and like, I was able to just really fucking put my heart into that, and it actually got second place in the class, where we had all of our documentary films. First place went to this guy. I talked about him before. His name is John Tate. He's a Bears football player.
Yeah.
This guy made this fucking, I hope that guy's doing some talented shit, but he made this documentary of this fucking great story about this woman getting an organ donor program, but she was getting it from a complete stranger.
Wow.
And he actually filmed both of them, and he had the dough to just fly out. But this guy had so much heart into his storytelling.
Wow, that's so cool.
So much love. But I was just like, yeah, I mean, I even voted for him. I didn't even vote for me. I'm like, this fucking guy. But,
you guys had a film festival of your stuff?
Yeah. So
cool.
Most of the film classes we were in, the big final projects, we would actually have screening days. And, that's when all the nerves would come out. And I did pull a couple all-nighters because my background was mainly in editing. So I edited either a lot of people's stuff or I made my own stuff and edited it. I wish I would have taken more risks when I was there because I commuted. I took the train. I wish I would have just stayed behind and like gotten to really like I could have had an internship like logging tapes at some media burn organization, and the guy that ran it, he offered me the job. He's like, hey, you want the internship? It's yours if you want. I'm like, I don't know about the commute.
Aw, that sucks.
Yeah, but like, that was all me, and I could have met like Robert Zemeckis.
Oh man.
You know, like
man.
Yeah, like dude, like all kinds of like dude. Well, obviously before he died, Philip Seymour Hoffman was there because there's this class called Acting for Directors.
Oh wow.
And he came in there and he was just talking to the students about shit. So we actually had like all kinds of cool stuff and like cinema slapdowns where there would be this like the movie and then afterwards there would be a Q&A and like kind of like this debate about what the movie was about. So
that's cool.
There was a lot of cool shit, but you know, I kind of got a taste into the world of film and TV. So like my first semester, like I met two friends. So I met Coleman. So picture like he's a guy that was kind of from, you know, the suburbs like me. You know, he had a background as a theater kid, but you know, he was really tall and like he was just a really cool guy into all like the cool, like I guess as you would call it, nerdy stuff. And then you had Alex. So we nicknamed him Peanut Head because he had, I don't know, his head looked like a peanut, but it was like endearing. And I don't know, he didn't have anything wrong with him. It's just he talks so fast. Like he would, it would a mile a minute. So he would add his like so there would never be any silence in between words. He would just be like, yeah, so the other day I just went over I just got the, I said, what the fuck? I just got the drink over there. So.
Like Boomhauer?
Yeah. So he was like Boomhauer. And those are the two guys I met first in a television production class. Mm-hmm. And then we actually got to run the booth. And I actually had some experience at the tech campus.
Yeah, you did.
So I actually I did get a little cocky though because like, yeah, I was, you know, I knew the shit that was going on in tech campus, but then 5 years later, I didn't know anything that was going on in the studio, like at the Columbia. But then I really bonded with those guys. And then, Alex was quite the character. He always had these like very grandiose ideas. So he was kind of like Tommy Wiseau in a way. So like he would always have like this, like, and he was really into soap operas too. So he would always edit these like soap opera like love stories, like you know, like the shows like One Day at a Time or whatever those like popular soap operas.
Yeah.
And he would just like edit them to like a music video, and he was really into it. But then he was we always kind of make fun of him because he was like he wasn't rich, but he didn't care about certain things. Like so for instance, he had a coat that he said was like a few $100s. And he would just throw the fucking coat on the ground.
Oh my God.
And he'd be like, Alex, like, pick up your $300 coat. He's like, you know, it got to the point where, like, at first, no one knew what the fuck this guy was saying.
Oh my God.
And then, like, and he would just say shit. But then, like, once, like, we see him every day, like, it was pretty funny because we were his interpreter with some of the teachers.
That's so funny.
Because then they say, like, Alex, what was your inspiration with your movie? And he's like, well, and then we just like, yeah, he actually liked James Cameron. You know, but we knew what the fuck he was saying. Yeah. And then me and Coleman really bonded. And then, you know, because like Coleman, like he was a regular guy like me. I didn't really fit in with like, I'm not putting him down, but like the more like artsy kids, I didn't really fit in with them because I didn't know like any of like the hip bands or music or.
Well, and that's how I felt, where I was kind of like those like English major kids. There was just a lot of them that were like really fucking snooty and like hipsters and like, you know, just had their own head just shoved so far up their ass that I'm like, I don't want to fucking hang out with you.
Yeah, there's a few of those guys, but I didn't really get close to them. So, and then the next semester, Alex and Coleman were in my foundations class, like for the moving image arts. And then there was moving image production, MIA and MIP. So in those classes, like, I don't know how, like Thursday, the MIP was like 9 a.m. So I would actually have to get up at fucking 4 a.m, take the 5:45 train out there just to have enough time to make it to class. So that, I don't know how the hell I did it. So then in that class, they divided up the class into 4 groups. They said, okay, you're going to be making a movie together. Pick your group. So I was like, okay, how about Alex and Coleman? And like, there's another guy in there from the TV class. And then Alex, so Coleman, like, he went to his own group. So then Alex found another group, and he became friends with this girl named Becca. And then also who joined our group was Preston. Preston was an older student. He's 4 years older than me. So at the time, he was about 26, 27 years old. So you're like, how the fuck are we going to make this movie? You know, and the purpose of it was everybody had to write a script. So for like a 5-minute long movie or whatever. And then like the top 4 or 5 best ones would get made. So everyone took a vote. So we got this one script from this kid named Adrian. So Adrian, real cool fucking guy. He wrote this script called Craigslist. And obviously it was about Craigslist. And it's about this like womanizer, playboy, whatever you want to call him. He would go on Craigslist and then like just like bang these beautiful women and then just like throw them away the next day. But then like throughout the course of the story, he meets this one girl that he falls in love with. And then the big twist at the end is that she plays him. Yeah. So, and then
Conquest. Nice.
Yeah. So actually almost 9 years ago to the day, we recorded this fucking thing. And
that's dope.
We went to the city and like none of us really had that much experience with production. So like I was the producer and then like Becca was the costume designer, our production assistant, and then Alex was the director, and Alex always had these big ideas with like the love stories and stuff. And then Preston was kind of like the camera operator. So we went to this apartment building called the Aqua Building in the city, which was like
I love the Aqua Building.
It's fucking amazing because Preston still to this day is the most well-networked guy I've ever met. And and one of his friends worked in the Aqua Building. So whenever we wanted to go there and use his place, we went up and like this guy has I can't remember what floor I was on, but it was overlooking Navy Pier, and like it was just this beautiful fucking apartment. And we really got to like film that space, and we actually had to go through a casting process. We hired like the actor, the guy that played Craig, and then we hired like the women that like he would pick up. And
were you able to pay him, or did you hire him through Columbia? Like,
there was a few things that you could do at Columbia. One, you can go through an acting agency, Lily's talent agency, and they had all their binders on a certain floor. So if you wanted to like if you saw someone's headshot, you can call them up.
Yeah.
And I actually met quite a few actors. Like I met like an actress who was in like The Dark Knight. There was a woman who was in Home Alone, and they were just like in the books, you know. And it's really cool that you could just. I think one other woman was in Passion of the Christ. So like these like actors, like they knew their shit, and they would do it for free because they understood to help out students.
That's cool.
Alex got. One guy we cast as Craig, we actually went through the audition process, and we were like, okay, this guy like fits the bill, and he had an acting background, and his name was Brody, and Brody was very like, he had like traditionally handsome looks, but he was like a theater kid, you know, so he's professional, you know, lanky, but you know, handsome, and you could tell that he's the guy that would like do this to women in terms of the story, like he like conveyed that, like in his audition, like he read like from a script where he played a similar character, and then. The women were Alex's friends who have never acted before. So
were they any good?
It turned into a music video, so none of them really had to do much. So the main one who played him, her name was Anna. I became good friends with Anna. So she was Romanian, and she had like this sort of like mysterious but very stern demeanor about her. So and like she like wore this like provocative red dress during the production, and then Alex's other friend Eldina. She was very good in terms of like, you know, like she could like very expressive, like with her like eyes and her smile and stuff. So they were both a lot of fun to work with. And we were all just kind of starving and like, you know, like dehydrated because when you go out on set for like 8 hours at a time, you know, like nobody thinks to film this shit. So over the course of 2 days, we had to film this, and we had this video camcorder called the JVC, you know, so we couldn't do shit for sound. We didn't really know much about lighting. I was there just as kind of this guy that makes sure stuff went right, but I still didn't know what I was doing. I got the nickname Big Mama from going to Columbia because I would always have like the stuff on me, like like tape or like, you know, hand warmers or like little snacks, and made sure people like, you know, were taken care of. And they called me Mother Goose. So then it just evolved into Big Mama. After that weekend, we just completely, we had those were the times of my life.
Yeah.
And there's still a picture that we took of all of us. And, I was looking back on it and like I was just like this big beardy bastard. And, I still had like definitely not the guy I am now in terms of just like the knowledge I have of the world. But then after that, we just filmed a bunch of other stuff. So me, Preston, Alex, and Becca were like this core group. Like to the like we're still like all like fairly close. I mean, some people have like strayed away, but then like we still always like come back and like kind of connect and talk about those times. And we would all like hang out and go to Thai Spoon, which was this.
Oh, Thai Spoon! I know Thai Spoon.
Oh God, we would go there and we were like, hey, we just wanted to be treated like shit, and we would go there and they would just never. They give us one little sip of water and they would never come back because they always assumed we would never tip. We always left good money, but so. And then, I like mixed with other groups, like, more kids in the TV production side. And, I just mingled with like everybody. And like, I really like kind of came into my own like identity and like kind of purpose, like just like as a as a person, throughout my college time. And I busted my ass so hard. Yeah.
Well, especially something like that creatively, like it doesn't work until you bust your ass.
Yeah, you have to, and like the struggle, like when it came to like being on set, I was always there and I was always on time and punctual and I always wanted to do my best. And, sometimes like we would clash heads with people and that was to be expected. And, like you'd develop feelings for certain people and then like that would be, you'd just be awkward on set and all that stuff. But then, once at the end of the day, like you just kind of like all came together to make this baby. Yeah. And then you bonded because you guys are just together, huddled and just fucking sweating. And then, just like in this hot ass room with this hot ass light and you're just making a movie and a story and listening to Alex direct. And, like Alex would always like, have these ideas he would run by me, but like some of them, like, he had a character in mind who was just the rapist.
Ew.
In the story. So he approached me, hey, Brent, I have this idea. I just want to know what you think. And I was just like, what? Yeah, I'm writing this one movie. It's called Burning. So it's about this one other festival. But I want you to play the rapist because you look like you'd be a rapist.
Oh my God, I would be so mad.
But here's the thing, because it was him. Like
you're like, oh yeah, it's fine.
We were like, because you think I look like a rapist. Yeah. All right, man. When do you want to start shooting? But that was like he had this.
That's funny.
He had like the heart of Tommy Wiseau, and we would just all fucking laugh because it was just so funny. And one time, like we had to like swap scripts with the class. So Preston got one of Alex's scripts. And Preston did a really good job with like adapting Alex's. However, he had to take out a lot of stuff. Like there was like this like love scene on the beach that Preston had to cut out because logistically, like one, it was winter time. And two, when Preston told Alex this, like, okay, picture Preston. He's a 6'6", like football player-ish looking like black dude. You would not fuck with this guy. Yeah. Alex was maybe 5'5", like weighed at least a third of the weight Preston weighed. But then like Preston was just like, like he just had like this deep and confident voice. He's like, hey Alex, I'm just gonna have to cut out this part in the script. And I was like, what now? So Alex chased Preston. Like we had double doors like into the classroom. So it actually got to the point where they were literally like Alex was chasing Preston around these fucking circles, and then Preston just like held the door and locked the door, and then Alex was banging on the other side of it like, don't change the script, and you just heard like like just like these like the gibberish muttering, and we just all fucking dying because like that was his heart. And Preston was just like, I'm gonna take out your heart, Alex. Like, that's how he took it. And
that's, you see, yeah, like in the English department, like it was so individualized and it was so much a, me one-upping you and showing you how smart I am. Like that's just what it was. And like I wasn't going to play that game because like I just didn't want to. And like the closest I got to anyone or any group was in my seminar for English for that Bronte Sisters one. And it was cool because it was only like 10 or 12 of us and like the professor Dr. Mikhail Clark, who is just like so sweet and like she's like this woman who's like gone to England and like studied the Brontes. And she also taught Victorian literature. That was the class I took prior to it. And it was like, oh, I can dig the Brontes. Like we read Wuthering Heights then, and then we read like more of the Bronte sisters. The biggest regret I do have is like one of two things was like I didn't put myself out there to like meet new people, and I also think I like just worked too hard to the point that I couldn't enjoy the experience. Because when you're taking 18 credit hours and you're working 15 to 25 hours a week, like you have no time for anything else. And so I didn't really get to like go out, and not that I'm a partier, but I didn't really get to like enjoy the city, and I didn't really want to. And like, you know, I think I was not in a space where I could enjoy the city and like all that it had to offer at that point. Yeah. And there was nothing really collective about it other than like in the psychology program, like you would like your big classes, you would often team up with people to like come up with like a topic or a question that you wanted to research. Like our research methods class, I had this group, and we had a professor who previously worked at the Institutional Review Board. So she was like, you're going to actually do like an experiment, but it's all going to have to do with altruism, which is like people helping other people and being selfless. So we did this experiment called The Strange Situation, where we had like 3 people stationed in the library bathroom. I was doing my makeup in the mirror in the library, which is like no one ever does their makeup in the mirror at the library. So I probably looked weird. And then one girl standing on the outside, like looking like she was on her phone, but she was taking notes of what people were doing. And then we had a girl on the outside who was like trying to listen to see if she heard people say anything on their way out about like what happened. And then we had our covert person, or like undercover person. She was wearing a red dress with blue tights, like teal tights. And she walked out of the bathroom stall with her dress tucked in to her tights. And we wanted to see if people would like say something to her, right? And without fail, every time, and I was with my makeup, I was marking every time someone did something. And so she'd have to like go back in the stall, and we'd have to like wait a couple minutes till like somebody like came back, or like there was more people, or like no one was in the bathroom who saw it the first time or anything like that, right? So she like would walk out, and like like every single time girls would like be like, oh, your dress, they would either say your dress is in your tights, or sometimes they physically walked over and they pulled her dress out of her tights for her, and like, oh my God, like, and then they would like say something like, oh my God, it's happened to me before, I just don't want you to walk out. Like it was funny how they like reasoned it, and we were like the only group of people that did that. The other people they did qualitative analysis of stuff. So they would like take a survey. They would have us like take a survey about like, oh, did you listen to music when you got ready this morning? What was your music? How are you feeling now? Blah, blah, blah. We were like the only group that like didn't experiment. And it was really cool and like really fun. And I think it was nearly every time we did like, I don't even know how many trials, maybe 10, 15, 20. And every time, like maybe other than like once, people said stuff. And I would also take note of like how many people saw it but didn't do anything. And like virtually no one said anything on the way out. But that was like really, really cool to do. And I can't remember what I did for my social psychology lab. I can't remember what I did. But yeah, so, and that was like the most collective that it really got in my college experience. And I really liked the people that I worked with. The only thing that was bad about working there was like the hours. It would be like Friday, Saturday nights, Sunday mornings. And like theater patrons can be like really uppity and like suck. So like that was like not fun to deal with. But like for the most part, we was pretty much like hanging out. You got paid. It was part of the federal work study program. So we got paid for like being there. And the best was like if you were like a house manager was the best because you got to be like in charge or whatever. You got to wear like a headset and like do a spreadsheet to make sure everything went okay. But it was hard work. It was a lot. But it was totally cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand wanting to work and do well, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just I never see that in a movie. Like it's always like the opposite. Like you meet these like wacky characters and you get fucked up and you have like regrets. I've just never seen a movie where there's just like a character and you give a shit about them and they just go there, they do their thing, and like they just remain strong. Like perhaps there is a movie, but just like off the top of my head, I can't recall one.
No, it's mostly just like people like going and they're like working like super, super hard, and like not super hard. They're like partying super hard. And they always kind of like pass their classes in the end. And it's all like the, it doesn't ever focus on the learning or like the work that goes into it. And I don't regret going to college. Like I really do love learning. It's probably one of the reasons I'm a teacher. And I don't regret it. And I don't regret how many, tens of thousands of dollars I'm in debt. I don't regret that either, even. So I think it was worth it in the end. I think though that like that guy told you, it is what you make of it. Like if you're going to go in there and you're going to be disappointed or upset or like not like it, then you're not going to like it. If you're walking in with that, it's not going to be for you. But like good things come out of college. Like there totally is that element of people trying to find themselves. I think that people, at least at like one thing I really do love about Loyola was that Jesuits are committed to social justice. So there was a lot of service learning that happened. There was a writing center on campus that I was a participant in. That was actually one of the requirements was you had to do a service learning class as part of your degree. So like I worked in the writing center. They had a lab for adult readers to try to teach them how to read. So that was really cool, although I didn't partake in that. There was always work, helping out at soup kitchens, helping out refugees. Like there was a lot of different things you could do, that was really important to Loyola. And I really admire that, that aspect of like giving back to the community. The weird thing is that they really like upped number one, Loyola bought like more property in the surrounding neighborhood and have like really converted that part of Rogers Park into being like this like sprawling campus. Cause like DePaul is like not our rival, but like the rival because it's the other Catholic institution, but it's like in a really nice part of the city. And Rogers Park isn't the worst, but it's definitely not the best. Like it's, yeah, like where we were living, it was like okay, but like, yeah, it was kind of not the best in other places. And like, now they've like built it up so much that a lot of people are really critical of Loyola because like they're eating into like the neighborhood. And really like gentrification has been thrown around and been like, hey, like you're gentrifying the area by doing this and that and this and that. So, and I think they even had, because the school is there, they even like refurbished like the L station, like that is on Loyola Avenue, which funny enough, I lived on. So it was weird. Like I really liked college in that how much I learned, and like, I'm really proud of like some of the work I did in college. Like I thought that was really cool, but I don't know. Like I probably wouldn't do it over again if I had if it was like, oh, would you rather have all your loans paid off? Or I don't know, whatever the option would be of like, would you rather go back to college and do it all over again or do this? I would probably pick the other thing, whatever it was.
Yeah. I don't regret the people I've met. I do regret a lot of the decisions I made, especially with the finances, because I was just like, it'll work itself out. And I didn't really know what the fuck a loan meant. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, definitely like if I were to, I actually do want to go back to college. I don't think I could do it for my major because one, it's gone. Two, I'm already so much money in the hole just from having a bachelor's in that field. So it's pretty expensive. If anything, I'd want to do a more practical field, one I don't really know of yet. But I'm also glad of when I went. I went from 2009 to 2012, and it was right on the cusp of before these really big changes in the culture where like you saw more of like the social justice stuff and you saw, like there wasn't as many like protests like downtown and stuff. And there was this trial period where we really got to see a lot of like controversial and complicated things and really were able to have like the discussions about those pieces of art to where I don't know if those would be done in the same way today. Yeah,
totally. And I think that I was at Loyola from 2011 to 2014, fall this summer. And like, it was totally that element of like social justice was really popular. Tumblr was popping. I remember like people being like, oh yeah, she's Tumblr famous. And like that being a thing. And like, yeah, it was kind of weird. And like, in terms of like, I was in like some women's studies classes. Like I actually was like, I think 2 credits. I was just really interested in like women's studies. And I was especially like in how it intersects with like literature and psychology. And I think like a couple credits away from having like a women's studies minor or a gender studies minor, which was kind of cool. But there definitely was this like call out culture was huge. And like, of course, I think some of it's like call out culture can be toxic because then like, you know, but then if you said that, you'd be accused of like tone policing. And that was a big like word that got thrown around. It was really like the start of like accountability, like movements and, you know, sexual assault and sexual harassment was really brought up and like, what is the patriarchy? And like, so I found that really powerful. I also think that a part of the college experience is like all of a sudden you realize like you get like quote unquote woke about certain things, or you become more aware. Like you take one philosophy class and you think you know it all. Like I think that happens to like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And like it's fine, and that's like par for the course. And like it's good that you get like jazzed and like empowered by like a certain like idea. But yeah, no, I think that I really do love college. And like I think, though, that it's not for everybody because, frankly, like, you can make 6 figures and work for a union. Like, I don't think, like, academia or, like, college is for everybody, and that's totally fine. I just wish that, like, high schools would say that more because, like, my belief is that we need like flexible tracking where like in school you can start, like if you don't think that you want to do something academic, maybe you can start picking up a trade. And if you don't like that trade, then you can go back on the academic track or stuff like that. Because like so much like has been removed from the walls of the schoolhouse and has been placed in something like a tech campus. And I find that alienating for the student because it's basically telling them like, you don't belong here, you belong over there. Because you shouldn't be housed in academia, you should be housed over here in technical school. And like, I don't like that. And I don't like the message it sends. And I wish we had more funding and like resources that we brought back into schools to teach trades and skills and expose kids to them so that they don't have to like go to college just because it's like what everyone's doing. And, I have to go to college to get a good degree or to make good money. You know what I mean?
I agree, especially when there's this implicit narrative that if you don't capitalize on the momentum you have immediately after you graduate high school, then you're fucked.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like, I think that there is truth to that if you allow that to be your truth. So for instance, there are people who like I went to high school with that like graduated and they're like, I'm just going to go to community college, get out my gen eds out of the way. But there were some people that, well, they were getting their gen eds, but they were also working. And then it took them a long time. And then some of them, they didn't even finish their associates and they never like got to college, which is fine. I'm not saying that they should, but to your point, it's like, if you decide that you're not ready for school, that's okay. I also know, though, that I went into school undecided on my major, right? Like, I knew I liked psychology. I knew I probably wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't want to commit to the education program at Loyola because I really didn't like it. And so I was just kind of like, all right, I'll see how this goes. Oh, hey, I really like psychology. I'm going to study that. Oh, hey, I've realized that I really love English. I'm going to study that too. And that actually ended up working in my favor because now I'm an English teacher. I don't teach psychology. So like, I think it's like, if you like have the means and the time and the grace, I think you can be okay with going to school and not knowing what you want to do. And also, if you get a degree in something that you graduate with and then you can't find a job, like that's okay. Like life allows U-turns. Like you can do something else. Like one decision will not fuck up the rest of your life. At least when it comes to education, in my perspective.
Yeah, like just like at my job I'm at now, like for the past 5 summers, I've been working with like fresh out of high school, like 18-year-old kids in a program to where they're getting ready for the college life and not like the life, but at least like the college experience. And most like there's very few that I've talked to that who were not just absolutely scared shitless about like failing or and not like they were. It's not that. They knew it was okay that they didn't know what they wanted to do. They were afraid and scared shitless because they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, and that narrative that like you don't have your whole life planned out, like you're like, you know, you're fucked. Like that's ridiculous. And
yeah,
it was my brother's birthday a couple weeks ago, and you know, I just bought this condo and apparently my brother and my mom and my dad were like, yeah, we don't understand how Gabi turned out so well, because like all of us like didn't know what we wanted to do, and we weren't determined, and we didn't do good in school and blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about? You guys are doing really well for yourselves. But it was this weirdness of like my whole family being like, wow, you're like the good one. Like you've done all these things and it's amazing. And it was like, but I mean, I knew I liked psychology. I knew I liked the idea of being a teacher, but I didn't actually know that's what I wanted to do. I just went to school and thought, all right, I'll figure it out. I always land on my feet. It'll be fine. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, if you don't know everything, like, again, that's okay. Like, you don't have to know everything. And I do have to acknowledge, like, I am privileged that, like, I financially would have been okay. Like, I would have been okay if I, like, you know, took 2 extra years or something like that, you know? So, like, I'm talking from a place of, like, privilege, and I, like, totally acknowledge that and own it. But I do think that, like, we need to tell, like, young people, like, if you go to school and you don't know what you want to do, that's okay. If you know you don't want to be in academics, period, that's fine. Go, like, literally, I have a student whose dad is a truck driver, and he makes 6 figures a year. Like, he likes it. He likes his job. He likes traveling. He likes driving, and he makes really good money doing it. So it's like, you know, or the trades. I mean, if you can be, like, in an electrical union or a plumbing union, you can make really good money. Like, so I just wish that we didn't alienate those kids and, like, tell them, like, school isn't for them, because that's just bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, you never hear that coming out of high school. At least now, like, I don't like the narrative. Like, you can be anything that you want to be, and you have to know what that is next week.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous, because that's so much pressure. And, like, literally, I have kids who are like, I don't want to go to college. I'm like, you don't have to go to college. But if I don't, my parents will be upset. Well, you're going to be 18 and you'll figure it out. Like, okay, if you don't, well, and what I've told them is like, okay, if you're not going to go to school, then you have to pick up a trade. You got to do something, because you can't just do nothing. So you got to figure out, like, what you want to be or what you want to do. And, like, it's not to say that, like, for example, there's kids who, like, want to be rappers. They want to be painters. They want to do art. Yo, dude, you can totally do that. I also want you to just have a backup plan, though, just in case. I want you to pick up a skill or a trade or something that you can do along the way, just in case that doesn't happen. I want you to pursue your passion, but I also want you taken care of just in case.
Probably the number one thing that I would improve in colleges all across the board are the fucking prices of the books.
You know what? I was lucky enough that there was only a couple times in my early career that I found, like, there were books that, like, were, like, too fucking expensive. A lot of them I got rented, and, like, and then there were other ones where, like, I was taking literature classes, so I just needed, like, a shitty old copy of, like, a book that I could get on Alibris for, like, $2. I really lucked out there.
That's not the typical experience.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's not.
That is
it's
very,
not.
like pretty much, like, I would have probably taken a broom in the ass, like, or that's at least what it felt like for some of the prices of these goddamn books. Like, when I was at community college, even at Columbia too, like, they, like, in the buyback programs, like, you're at the mercy of these fucking books, and they now, like, one of the biggest insults, I think, is what they do is they charge you full price for the book, maybe a little less, but it's like obviously printed from a copy machine and just put into a standard binder.
Yeah, they did. I had, one of the classes I had to take in school was this fiction writing workshop, and the professor wrote the fucking textbook we had to use, and it was like a copied, you know, spiral bound edition of it that was like crap ton of money, and I'm just internally, like, steaming, because I'm like, I know you're getting a fucking kickback from this probably. And it was just like, but yeah, I'm gonna sound so horrible here. I didn't do a lot of the reading in college. Like, I didn't have time to. I did the best that I could, but I don't think I ever finished a book.
Well, there's a difference between being a good student, learning, and being good at taking tests. Because if you know how to get an A on a test, that's a lot different than actually absorbing every little piece of information in the book.
Yeah, and I don't want to say I'm not a good test taker. I don't study, though. Like, I make a study guide and that's it. Like, I don't study it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, even do outlines before they write a paper. Like, I still to this day do not do that.
You don't see. I have to outline a paper, otherwise it's like my thinking is everywhere. And that's what I have some students that are like, but I just like to write the paper, and I'm like, okay, but I've never seen a kid do that and not have their work sound horribly jumbled by the end. And it's not to say that there aren't adults that can do it. I just think that, like, okay, like, if you want to do a free write and, like, show me all your ideas, we can make an outline from that. But, you know, sometimes you'll just have a kid, like, you know, word vomit for 3 pages, and it's like, if we had an outline, this wouldn't have happened.
See, but I do that, but I use my editing skills to, like revert back to, like, just the organization part. Like,
no, for sure.
Yeah, but, yeah, like, different strokes for different folks. With college, they really, like, especially, like, in the news now with, like all, like, the woke shit and, like, you know, like, incidents happening and protests and shit. It's, like, really getting a bad rap of what, like, you know, college can be. And at the end of the day, it really all depends on, like what that guy told me. It is what you make, and it's, like, where your heart is at. If you want to work hard, it will eventually pay off. I would say definitely get smart to loans and credit and all that other bullshit beforehand, before just, like, going. Because, like, to me, yeah, we had, like, the FAFSA class or whatever, but that wasn't enough. That's just like, hey, Brent, we're going to pay for all of your college. Now, like, you're going to have everything you could ever want, except you're going to be 6 figures in debt when you graduate. You better have a goddamn job. I was like, yeah, I'll have a job. Didn't have a job. I will say Columbia, when I graduated, they had this program, I think it was called Talent Pool. Mm-hmm. So what they did is they actually took your credentials and they added it to this online database.
Oh, cool.
So picture, like, I remember a giant circle, and on the inside they had a lot of other little circles. So every, like, job that was, like, needed had to deal with these bubbles, and, like, some of them were interconnected. So, like, for instance, if you were good at film editing as well as acting and all that stuff, like, you had more access to, like, the bubbles. And I was like, this is so amazing. I'm not gonna do shit with this because it'll all work itself out in the end. So, you know,
it kind of did.
No, I mean, well, I didn't get a job out of college, like, because after I graduated in 2012, that was when I went to, like, my fucking string of depression and all this other shit, and then I just, like, kind of
another huge part of the college experience, depression.
Oh god, if you're not freaking the fuck out. But, like, after college, like, I was more heartbroken in college than depressed. I didn't reach, like, my depression years until
my depression years.
So 20, I experienced pangs of it in the summer of 2012, but it really hit me for the first time in the fall of 2013 until the fall of 2017. So those were, like, those 5 years, the dark years, you know, for me. So
dark ages.
Yeah, because I didn't do shit, but, you know, I really wish I would have taken more opportunities, because I still love, like, making movies and, like, you know, telling stories and being creative. And it's just, like, really, like, I have to relearn everything again because the technology is completely different.
Yeah, that's true. I think that in the end, like, the advice that I tell the kids who are going to college is, like, just trust that you'll pay off the loans somehow. I feel like that's all you can really do is, like, trust that it's going to work out. And, like, the worst case scenario, you can ideally work things out with your lender and, like, it'll be okay. And, like, I understand that it kind of feels like a blade hanging over your head, but, like, you just got to do your best to not think about it, right? Like, I mean, I have to pay. Here's the thing. I will probably be paying off my debt until I'm in my 40s. So, like, but I guess I'm okay with that, because it's, like, it got me what I wanted, which is, like, you know, a field and a position and a job that I do like and I care for. And I feel like it'll be okay in the end. Like, it's hard. And, like, my biggest fear is that someone doesn't go to college because they're so worried about the cost that, like, they don't get the benefit of going because they're so scared of the cost.
Yeah.
And that's, like, I mean, it's just a part of it that, like, I mean, I want it changed. Don't get me wrong. The price of education has skyrocketed. Tuition, textbooks, you name it. So, and I want college to, like, mean something more than just something you had to do to get a job.
Yeah. There's still kind of that narrative where, at least some of the youths think, I mean, like, it's not like adults reflecting on college. Like, it's like 18-year-old kids, you know, and then like it's kind of like this, you know, like they're at the maybe I've used this analogy before, but like they're at the beach and like from birth until they're 18, they are swimming in the part of the beach that has the rope with the buoy on there. College, it's like, yeah, the rest of your life, that's all that shit. You got to figure it out, and there's just a lot of pressure to do that, and like they don't have the wisdom of failure, which is what adults have. Yeah. Like, that's why I'm able to, like, if I were to go back and do college over again, I'd be fucking awesome. I would be disciplined. I wouldn't play with my dick until, you know, the day the homework was due. Yeah. Like, I would be proactive. I would, like, seek out opportunity. But because I failed, that's how I have that wisdom. And then, like, these kids, they don't have that fucking wisdom from failure.
Yeah, I agree.
And the only way to combat that is just by saying, like, hey, it's okay to not know what the fuck is going on right now.
1,000%. Yeah, and I think one thing that I tell kids is, like, they're like, I don't know if I want to go to school. I don't know this. I don't know that. And I'm like, you know what? Part of growing up is being disillusioned and just coming to reality and being like, it's not sunshine and rainbows, but you're just going to trust that it's going to work out in the end. And even when you think it's the end, it's not the end. Like, it'll be okay. And you can find a way out. Life allows U-turns, hippy dippy, mumbo jumbo, blah, 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 blah. But, like, it'll really be fine if you think it's going to be fine.
Yeah. And I just really wish that I knew that back then. But I didn't really learn the person I was capable of being until my mid-20s, until after college was over. I was in this kind of, like, stasis of, you know, all right, the best version of myself is now, because I'm young and I have all these opportunities and advantages to me. Yeah. But now it's like, no, I'm I'm more tired now because I can't sleep for shit. But, like, compared to the guy I was, like, in 2009, holy shit. It's like night and fucking day.
Well, I do feel like that too. And I think that a lot of the growing and transformation was due to my breakup, but also just, like, being, like, able to be independent as I always wanted to be. Because that was probably the other thing I hated about college, was just like, I'm doing all this shit for a piece of fucking paper so I can get a goddamn job. And, like, at the end of the day, I mean, I should have changed my attitude about it, but, like, I don't regret having that opinion, because now I feel differently. Like, it wasn't, and it led me to being the person I am today. And therefore, like, I can't like discount that, because it really helped me be who I am now.
That's fucking awesome, dude. And if you still want to, like, if you're out there and you're just lost and you're trying to think of what to do, maybe you just gotta blow a horse, just so you can have friends who will treat you like shit for the rest of your college.
I thought you were just going to end it at blow a horse, and I was like, what?
Oh, well.
No, we're done. We're done. Don't you fucking end that thought. Okay, we are done. This is Coffee and Catastrophe. I'm just kidding. Mostly. Please don't talk about blowing a horse.
I was just going to say, you don't have to figure out yourself by joining a frat.
Seriously.
And drinking.
Not that we sound like we're really judgy to frats and sororities. I mean, I guess if you really, that's your thing.
If there was less puke, if there was less pickles in the ass, and less rapey shit, and less drinking and vomiting and pissing and slapping each other in the face with fish and
popularity contests.
Yeah, and then, like, smearing mud on your ass and you know, like, shouting weird shit in Latin and you know,
and being white supremacist, frankly.
I kind of wish it was just that, like just the white supremacy.
If it was just white supremacists,
like the white supremacists are probably like, you know, we think we're superior, but we're not shoving broomsticks up our asses.
Oh, God.
Like, there's no weird culty fucking, like, that's a cult. Like even the Ku Klux Klan's like, hey man, we're not that. We just do a handshake and an oath. We don't.
That was sick.
Our asses are pickleless.
That was Jesus Christ. All right, no one's ever gonna listen to this fucking podcast again. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. If you liked what you heard, though, you can subscribe, like, comment on iTunes, Stitcher, Castbox. You can follow us on Facebook at Coffee and Catastrophe. You can follow us on Twitter at CCWBG. All of our episodes are at www.coffeeandcatastrophe.com. And now we're on YouTube.
That's right. Look us up. We don't have video yet, but we just have the image of the episode.
I don't think we're ever going to do video, because I like to look grubby as fuck when we're recording, and I don't want that out there.
Yeah, well, like, with me, people wouldn't know what fucking episode it is, because I'm always wearing the same, like, hoodie and hat.
You said it, not me.
Yeah. So, but yeah, in the meantime, figure out like who you are outside of what people want you to do. And you don't have to fucking shove anything up your ass that doesn't have to go there for social gain. Take care of yourselves and be good to each other.
Bye.